Good morning.
Now, sir, we want you to tell us the matters slated for deliberations at plenary today.
Yeah, compared to what we do have, today is a light order paper. We have 3 items for first reading, about 5 for second reading. Second reading is when the arguments are taken. That is the pros and cons of every item that comes on the order paper. So for B's, we have what is called second reading. And we also have 3 items for third reading. Third reading, after third reading, a B is passed. So we have some, amongst them is a B for the only transfer of government from one government to another. It's a B that was slightly contentious when it came for second reading. It's coming up today for third reading and passage. After that, it will be handed over to the Senate to take the process through and, if possible, pass it before it's given over to the President for his assent. We also have 2 motions. Like I said, it's a light order paper today. 2 motions. One is attempting to address the reform, to address the tertiary education system, reform in the Nigerian tertiary education system. It's a motion that seeks to take a look at the educational system, tertiary educational system in this country. And you have the other one that seeks to address an infrastructural defect in certain local governments in Yobe State. And then we have 2 items for consideration. After consideration, an item is brought back to the floor for adoption. So, but like I do said, a matter could come up on the floor as a matter of urgent public importance. Such matters are not normally on the order paper. If they do come and the members feel the items will be taken, they are taken immediately without reference to any order paper. So that, in a nutshell, is what we'll be having on the floor of the House of Representatives.
Thank you very much for obliging us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, as the chairman has explained, we have quite a number of bills and motions that are slated for deliberations at plenary today. And just as he said, apart from what we have on the order paper, there are also what we call motions of urgent national importance, which members bring up to the floor of the House for deliberations so that resolutions could be taken on them. I'll now hand you over to the chambers where the Speaker, Yakubu Dogara, is already presiding as plenary. Do stay tuned.
During my arrest with the Nigerian police, however, the reason behind my arrest, Mr. Speaker, was purely political, and as a result of political activities in my constituency. I really appreciate the honor done to me by this honorable House, especially Mr. Speaker and also the leadership of the House. I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I remain loyal to this honorable House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Goni, please, can you serve as the acting whip? So we move to matters of urgent public importance, but because we have quite a number of them, I recognize the chairman, rules and business, to move that we suspend rules in order to take more than 2 that the rule permits. Suspending rules to take more than 2 matters of urgent public importance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Okay, Jeff. I represent the good people of Buruku, my dear colleagues. I'm from Benue State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that the House do suspend the provisions of Order 8, Rule 4, particularly Sub-Rule 4, to allow the House to take more than 2 matters of urgent public importance. I so move.
Honorable Kayode Oladele will second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Kayode Oladele. I represent Yewa North and Mekabo Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, I'm from Ogun State, and I rise to second the motion as ably moved by the chairman rules and business. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it. So we'll take them in order of arrival of the motions. First will be from Honorable Edward Gyang Pajok.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Edward Pajok. I represent the South, the East. Mr. Speaker, my motion is on the ongoing crisis in Jos and the need for more professional investigation and an end to the indiscriminate arrest of civilians by the army. Mr. Speaker, I'm coming under Order 8-4 of the rules of this House. But the matter is quite urgent. Since the rules have been suspended, I do move that I be allowed to proceed to take the motion. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder? Honorable Akilaja.
I rise, Honorable Speaker, Honorable colleagues. I rise to support the motion moved by Right Honorable Pajok. I so support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Rules already suspended. Now you can move the motion.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, the need for a professional investigation of the crisis in the northern parts of Plateau State and call for an end to indiscriminate arrest of civilians by the army. The House notes the reports of the escalation of the crisis in the northern zone of Plateau State in recent weeks, particularly in Bassa, Jos North, Jos South, Barkinladi, Riom, and Jos East local government areas. Notes that the above local government areas make up the northern zone of Plateau State. Disturbed that the crisis has assumed the dimension of violent attacks, some of them serially in the same communities, leading to the loss of lives, properties, forceful occupation of ancestral lands, and displacement of thousands of citizens, many of whom are still housed in IDP camps in the state. Worried that even security personnel, including personnel from the police and army, are also casualties of these attacks. Disturbed that groups of citizens, in some cases numbering 19, 13, etc., have been killed gruesomely for no apparent reason than terrorism. Disturbed that the immediate past Chief of Administration of the Nigerian Army, retired Major General Idris Alkali, has not been traced since 3rd of September 2018 on his way to Bauchi from Abuja, thus necessitating a rigorous, unprecedented search by the Army. Notes that the Army, acting on intelligence, narrowed the search to a pond in Dura Du in Jos South, where on the 29th of September 2018, the Army reportedly found his black Toyota Corolla car among other properties of the General. Worried about the reports of the mass arrests of residents of Du area extending up to Rayfield, the breaking into houses of citizens without search warrant, stoppage and mishandling of motorists on the road by the Army. Further worried by reports that many of the people, including pregnant women and the aged, were and are being arrested and taken to the Rukuba barracks of the 3rd Armored Division of the Nigerian Army for interrogation, with some of them spending many days there. These include a journalist, Mr. Friday Oloko, a correspondent of Punch newspapers in Jos, who was arrested along with others in a restaurant in Rayfield, which led the Nigerian Union of Journalists on the 8th of October to issue a statement condemning the indiscriminate arrest by the Army. Disturbed that 2 years ago, the Red Cross reported that over 17,000 Nigerians are missing, with over 7,000 of them being children. Aware that the National Human Rights Commission has established a database for missing persons in Nigeria to enable the federal government trace the whereabouts of missing persons. Concerned that even the military has cases of missing persons, including Captain Davo Makon Gyang, who last served in Lagos, but which the military has not responded to inquiries by the family and his community about his whereabouts. Further concerned by the fear and tension pervading some communities in the South local government area, leading to fleeing from their houses because of the reported threats and brutalization by the army. Notes the need for cooperation by citizens in order to generate credible intelligence to trace all the missing persons, including but not limited to the retired general. Further notes the need for the cooperation of citizens to expose criminals irrespective of religious or ethnic identity. Worried that the ethnic profiling, criminalizing, labeling some ethnic groups as terrorists defeats the intent and purpose of crime fighting. Notes the need for security forces and the government to always act within the law and to respect the constitutionally guaranteed fundamental human rights of citizens, more so that there is no state of emergency in the state. Aware that by the provisions of relevant laws, particularly sections 214 and 217 of the Constitution and sections 1 of the Armed Forces Act, Cap 20 LFN 2004, and section 4 of the Police Act, among others, the Army has no power to investigate alleged crimes committed by civilians, as that is reserved for the police and other civil authorities. The House resolves, 1, to condemn in the strongest terms the attacks by criminals in Plateau State, particularly in the northern zone, which has led to the killing and disappearance of many citizens. 2, sympathize and condole with the families of all those who died in the crisis and pray for the speedy recovery of all those who are injured. 3, urges the federal government and the relevant security agencies to do everything within the law to trace the whereabouts of all missing persons in Nigeria, including but not limited to retired Major General Idris Alkali and Captain Davo Mankungyang. 4, urges the federal government to use the security forces saddled by the Constitution with the powers of investigation of missing persons in communities, specifically the police and the DSS, to investigate professionally and respect the rule of law and human rights of citizens. 5, urges for the release of all those who are under detention, particularly civilians detained in military barracks, and they should be handed over to the police for proper investigation in line with the due process of law. 6, urges the federal government to put a stop to the killings, attacks, and kidnappings in Plateau State. Urges the federal government and the security forces to professionally investigate all crimes, and in doing so, respect the fundamental rights of citizens and act within the law and complying with due process. Urges the Army to desist immediately from entering into houses without search warrants or the indiscriminate arrest of law-abiding citizens whose offense is merely residing in certain areas. 9, urges the federal government to use civil authorities like the police, which is the institution legally vested with the power to investigate and prosecute crimes by citizens. Urges government, community and religious leaders and citizens to be genuinely committed to the reconciliation and peace process. And finally, to mandate the House committees on the Army, Defense, Police and Human Rights to ensure compliance and report back within 2 weeks. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Seconder, Honorable Kafo. Then you move your point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Very distinguished colleagues. I am Honorable Chike John Okafor, representing a member in Tubo Mobile Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second this very important motion, ably moved by Honorable Pajok. I so second.
Honorable Madaki, what's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, my name is Ali Usani Madaki, and I represent the good people of the Arab Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am coming under constitutional point of order. Section 14.2b. Section 14.2b says the primary responsibility of government is the protection of life and property. But I am shocked that a member of this House, a senior advocate of Nigeria, will stand up before this House and be raising a motion that somebody who was killed in his constituency and his car was found inside a fund in his constituency, and people in that constituency tried everything to prevent the authority from investigating, from taking out the whole water inside the fund, and that after it was done, that car of the general that was killed was found inside the fund. And somebody will stand before this House as a member of this House, as a Nigerian legislator, to say that issue should not be investigated. I believe that is a breach of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And I believe that issue, which kind of police? Can the army investigate? What is wrong in the army investigating? What is wrong? If they know they have not committed the crime, if they know they have not committed that crime.
Honorable Madaki, it's a matter. Wait now, it's a matter of urgent public importance. I'm sure you don't have the motion. That is why you are mischaracterizing what he's presenting. Really. Yes. So, no. No, that's not the motion that is before us. Yes. So please take your seat. We will put it and debate it. So those who will debate for the motion and against the motion, he's not saying they shouldn't investigate, but investigate according to due process of law. No. Just let's debate it, please. So those who are speaking for the motion, Honorable Idigang.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and honorable colleagues. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I am Representative Idi Gyang, member representing Barikin Ladi Rion Federal Constituency. I'm from Plateau State, and a co-mover of this motion. Honorable Speaker and dear colleagues, let me join Honorable Pojok to condemn the abduction and disappearance of retired Major General Idris Alkali, and to call for thorough investigation so as to unveil the facts of the matter and apprehend the abductors. I also want to pay tribute to serving officers and men of the military who are currently on deployment on internal security operations across the nation. I equally want to align myself in the call for compliance to due process of law in the investigation, which ordinarily ought to be handled by the police in consonance with Section 217, 22 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, and Section 4 of the Police Act, as well as Section 1 of the Armed Forces Act, rightly quoted by the learned Sang, as against the current indiscriminate mass arrest and detention of civilians by the military, occasioning severe infringement on their rights and privileges. Mr. Speaker, as we strive to build a nation where all citizens belong and matter, we must resist any attempt to single out particular ethnic groups or people for negative branding. The events surrounding the disappearance of the retired general has given rise to propaganda of a narrative of prejudice and hate against some ethnic nationalities on the plateau. Mr. Speaker, the danger of this negative narrative ought to be arrested and corrected. as it seeks to hold the entire community culpable for a criminal act that is still being investigated. We are all aware that our legal jurisprudence operates on the doctrine of the presumption of innocence, not on the presumption of guilt. This negative branding seeks to serve as a justification for what appears to be a collective punishment of the community through military action. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, never before has a people suffered massive loss of lives, ancestral lands and habitat, and yet subjected to an aggressive hate campaign through negative labeling, profiling, criminalizing and demonization that is being witnessed against Plateau people. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, we are pleading, we are sorrowing, we are grieving and burying the dead daily, on a daily basis on the Plateau. There was a time we buried 500 people in a day on March 7, 2010, in a mass grave. In July 7, 2012, we buried 101 lives, including a senator of the Federal Republic and a member of the State House of Assembly. Just last June, my dear colleagues, we buried over 230 people in Barikin Ladi local government. As we are speaking, Mr. Speaker, hardly any day passes without merchants of death visiting, including just Metropolis, where students of the University of Jos were also slain last week. And unfortunately, some persons want to turn the anguish and pain of our people into political capital by sponsoring touts on public protests to malign Plateau people, including our traditional rulers. Mr. Speaker, I have here today's Daily Sun, the picture of the palace of the district head of Rigiza Naraguta, which was burnt, and the district head, the paramount chief, escaped narrowly. Day before yesterday, some touts were sponsored to invade the palace of the Bongom George. And it took the intervention of the security, otherwise we wouldn't know what would have happened to His Majesty, the Bongom George. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, we advise that the propagandists of anti-Plateau prejudice, to instead of inflaming hate and reinforcing animosity, turn a new leaf and help us heal our wounds, thereby promoting harmonious communal coexistence on the Plateau. All we need is peace on the Plateau. May this House of the Nigerian people be part of the peace process on the Plateau by supporting this motion. Thank you, and God bless. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, for Honorable Madaki, I think the issues that are relevant, because the motion is not with us since it's a matter of urgent public importance. What Pajok was saying, I will read from some of the paragraphs relating to investigation. He said, urges the federal government to use the security forces saddled by the Constitution with the powers of investigation of missing persons in communities, specifically the police and the DSS, to investigate professionally and respect the rule of law and human rights of citizens. That's one of the prayers. Urges the federal government and the security forces to professionally investigate all crimes, and in doing so respect the fundamental rights of citizens and act within the law and complying with due process. Last one, he said, urges the federal government to use civil authorities like the police, which is the institution legally vested with the power to investigate and prosecute crimes by citizens. So the issue that he said it should not be investigated is not in the motion, really. It's not there. So anyone speaking against the motion, I will take, and then we'll put the question and move on. We will not subject it to very long debates. So, Honorable Madaki.
Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, my name is Aliyu Sani Madaki. and I represent the people of the Ala Federal Constituency of Kano State. Mr. Speaker, I want to say I stand to very strongly oppose this issue brought by my honorable colleague on the premise of the fact, not hearsay. Mr. Speaker, we all know as we speak today what is happening everywhere in Nigeria. People are being killed left, right, and center because of certain primordial sentiment or the other, because of differences of tribe, color, or religion. And I believe it's in the interest of all of us as Nigerians, Muslims and Christians, that there is peace for everywhere, that there is justice for everyone, that there is fairness for everyone. All of us know the story of the Army General that was killed in Jos on his way to, is it Bauchi or somewhere, I can't recall precisely. And investigation leads security officials to a particular community. And we all know that the community came out and protested that a particular fund must not be searched, to the extent that women went naked. It's everywhere on social media, that the place must not be searched. The person that was killed, maybe if you were an ordinary Nigerian or somebody like me, the story would have died by now, because maybe there would not be that effort to search that fund. But in the end, the army, the person being a former general, the army made sure that that fund was searched. In the process of searching that fund, his car was found inside the fund, and other vehicles were found inside the fund, which made the security agencies to believe that that community was involved in perpetrating that murder. So for anybody now to come and say security agencies like the army, which is an agency of the state, should not be involved in the investigation, I don't know how. Even if we go into the Army Act, I don't think if an army officer was killed, you can tell the Nigerian army that they must not be involved in the investigation. What is wrong in the involvement in the investigation is facts that will speak for themselves. So for somebody to come here and say he wants to use the House so that the House should not investigate, only the police. Mr. Speaker, we have stand here as a House and condemn the Nigerian police and condemn the IG and even ask that the IG should be removed as a House, which means this House does not believe in the IG of police we have today. And then somebody now is saying only the police should investigate. My issue with this, the police, the army, the DSS, or whoever we have should go and investigate and find out who committed this crime. That's all I'm saying. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, I guess the motion is simple. Nobody is saying it should not be investigated. The motion is that it should be investigated according to law and due process. That is all. That is all. So I think I don't want to subject this to long debate. We have heard from the movers, and except we're saying it should be investigated contrary to law. That is it. So, Honorable Nasir Ali Ahmed, your amendment, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My name is Nasir Ali Ahmed. I represent Nasra Federal Constituency, and I'm from Kano State, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, while we regret the loss of lives in any part of the country, Mr. Speaker, I want to move for an amendment to this motion. Mr. Speaker, I believe when the mover of the motion said that he wants only the Nigerian police force to investigate, to investigate.
He said civil authorities like DSS and the police.
my point here is when we talk about the security of this country, especially in Plateau State, it is not only the police that are involved. The army are involved in all security challenges that we have in this country. Now, Mr. Speaker, the army, as I'm making an amendment, Mr. Speaker, the army is a family. Yesterday we spoke about, Mr. Speaker, yesterday, if you remember, in this very chamber, we spoke about our colleague that was arrested, and we said that if a member is going to be arrested, it should follow a certain procedure. The Speaker must be informed first. Now, this is an issue that involves the army. You cannot say there is an investigation that is going to go on without the army involved. I believe that is not right. My amendment to this motion, Mr. Speaker, while I support the investigation, I support the mover, but my amendment is the army must be involved in the investigation of the murder of General Alkali. That is my amendment, Mr. Speaker. The army must be involved.
No, sir, you are not speaking. We will take a seconder, Honorable Gadaka.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I am Honorable Ismail Ahmed Gadaka, member representing Fika Fune Federal Constituency from Yobe State. I rise to second the motion heavily moved by my honorable colleague that the army must be involved in the investigation. Thank you.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor of the motion as amended say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it. Next matter of urgent public importance is from Honorable Osai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Distinguished honorable colleagues, I remain Honorable Osai, Nicholas Osai. I represent Ndokwa Okwani Federal Constituency of Delta State. Mr. Speaker, I'm coming under Order 8, Rule 4, to bring in a matter of urgent public importance and to suspend all other relevant rules to enable me to take this matter today. I so move, Mr. Speaker. The matter is urgent need to address the discretions and the security challenges on the invasions of National Assembly by security operatives.
Seconder, Honorable Pondi.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Julius Babuzo Pondi. I represent the very good people of British Federal Constituency, Mr. Speaker. It's not coming from Delta State. I rise to second the motion, heavily moved by my colleague, Honorable Osai Osai. I say second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable Osai, please move your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Distinguished honorable colleagues. The House notes that the recent invasion of the National Assembly on August 7th, 2018, by the marks armed security operatives of the Department of the Security, the Nigerian Police, and other security agencies. Further note, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, that these security operatives laid siege on the entire National Assembly complex for more than 6 hours, barricaded all its entrance, and deprived distinguished senators and honorable members of the House of Representatives, National Assembly staffs, including the clerk, journalists, and other stakeholders from entering the complex. The House is aware of a reported incident on April 18, 2018, when unknown persons in the broad daylight invaded the Senate chamber and carried away the maze of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The House also is aware of a reported early morning invasion of the residence of the leadership of the Senate on July 24, 2018 by security operatives that led to the massive defection of lawmakers on broad day on both the Senate and the House of Representatives from one political party to another. The House is disturbed that these brazen operations on legislative institutions is a gross violation of the constitutional order, the rule of law, and the doctrine of separation of power, and a breach of national security. Also disturbed that key institutions of national security in Nigeria have over the years been partisan and acting disgracefully. Observe, Mr. Speaker, that these unfolding incidents have put Nigeria in a global spot for bad democratic governance. The House is worried that the resultant effect of these actions is a discretion of the authors of lawmaking and the hallowed prestige of the National Assembly that is gradually eroding the legislative independence in Nigeria. The House is further worried that the constant executive intimidations, interference, and abuse of legislative institutions across the country is a smell creeping towards dictatorships and anarchy. Consequently, honorable colleagues, all these have regrettably put the legislative institutions in a retreat to address the security challenges posed by the incessant abuses of executive powers. The House records that Section 12, subsection 2 of the National Assembly Service Commission Act of 2014 as amended vests the Sergeant at Arms of the National Assembly with all the powers, privileges, and immunities of the police. That means they have the same powers and privileges with the police in line with the Act and other law enforcement agencies in the performance of their legislative duties. Concern, Mr. Speaker, that there is an urgent need to train the Sergeant at Arms of the National Assembly for the use of firearms and other self-defense mobile electronic devices. Acknowledge, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, the fact that a well-trained Sergeant at Arms on the use, bearing, procurement, and storage of firearms will give the lawmakers the entire National Assembly premises the needed safety and a better security protection it deserves. Resolved to develop a short, medium, and long-term measure for the training of Office of the Sergeant at Arms of the National Assembly on the use, procurement, and storage of firearms. 2, amend the National Assembly Service Commission Act of 2014 to establish a full-fledged training academy as a unit of the Office of the Sergeant at Arms of the National Assembly. 3, urge Mr. President to grant a license for the use of firearms by the officers in the Office of the Sergeant at Arms of the National Assembly in line with Section 12, subsection 2 of National Assembly Service Commission Act. 4, amend the standing orders of the House by inclusion that one of the rules of the Sergeant at Arms is the use and bearing of firearms for the protection of legislators, National Assembly premises, and its precinct. 5, mandate the Committee on Police and Legislative Compliance to liaise with the presidencies and report back to the House within 4 weeks for further legislative action. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Dana Suko.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Dana Suko. I represent Akankwa Biase Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I move to second the motion as duly moved by my colleague for Osai. Thank you.
Okay, I will invite Honorable Osai to speak to the motion, but because most of the issues thrown up here were covered in our last debate on the invasion of the Senate chambers, after you have spoken, we'll send it to the relevant committee to look at it. and report back to the House.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this motion is predicated upon what the National Assembly enacted as an act of National Assembly. And that act in Section 12, subsection 2, empower the Office of the Sergeant at Arms to procure arms, to bear arms for the protection of the institution of National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, over the years, the leadership of the House and the Senate have not taken cognizance upon it to be able to train and retrain the Office of Sergeant at Arms. The essence of this motion, Mr. Speaker, is to awaken the National Assembly as an institution. There is a law lying very, very comfortably without being activated to act. And this law, Mr. Speaker, if activated, can be able to protect the institution of National Assembly. How does it protect it? The National Assembly can go on short, medium, and long-term process in training its staffs. Mr. Speaker, globally all over the world, the staffs of the Sergeant at Arms are armed all over the world to be able to protect the institution called National Assembly, to be able to prevent the issues of invasion of any person coming to carry maize on one way or the other, to be able to protect also the leadership of the House. Mr. Speaker, to be able to protect legislators, leaderships, and the entire staff of National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, if this motion is carried and concurrence are done by the Senate, Mr. Speaker, in a long run, we will be protecting the institution of National Assembly. We will be protecting it from being preventing invasion by any other arms of government. Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, the essence to strengthen legislative arm is because these laws have been made. These laws are made to protect and strengthen the institution of National Assembly. I think that's the essence of this law. And I have brought it for you to create the awareness of the institution of this House and the Senate to do the right thing in line with the law. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Next is Honorable Dr. Tony Nwoye. Honorable Dr. Tony Nwoye.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Dr. Tony Nwoye, representing the people of Anambra East Anambra Federal Constituency. I'm from Anambra State. Mr. Speaker, I'm coming from Order 8, Rule 4, on the issue of urgent national importance, and also I'm praying for the House to suspend the relevant rules to enable me to move for urgent call for supply of relief materials to flood victims in Anambra East Anambra Federal Constituency. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Seconder, Honorable Babale Bashir.
Thank you. I'm from Kano State. My name is Babale Bashir. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion as moved by Dr. Tony Nwoye. I so move. Second.
You know, the motion is from a comrade, so I had to recognize another comrade to second. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Rules have already been suspended, so Honorable Tony, we can now move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Dr. Tony Nwoye from Anambra East Anambra Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, the House notes that the weather experts working in Nigerian Meteorological Agency in their weather forecast opined that 9 out of 21 local governments in Anambra State located close to River Niger will be hit by flood disaster. True to this forecast, these communities in Anambra Federal Constituency, namely Ezeagulotu, Enugotu, Omobanam, Aguleri, Anambra West, Ibariam, Nsugbe, Orometiti, Abebu, and different communities in Anambra West local government were ravaged by this flood. House been informed that this flood led to loss of lives, including a reverend father, and destruction of properties running to hundreds of millions of naira. Many people in my constituency were actually affected by this flood, and they were displaced, and they are managing their lives in different ID camps. Further informed that the National Emergency Management Agency has donated relief materials to some victims of flood disaster but these relief materials were grossly inadequate and are unable to give succor to the flood victims as desired. Concerned that the state flood victims, without urgent assistance, might start starving to death and become victims of avoidable death occasioned by a poor hygienic environment. Cognizant that the welfare of the people, apart from security, is the primary purpose of government, resolves to call on National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to urgently donate more relief materials to both food and non-food items to victims of this flood disaster in Anambra West Federal Constituency. Secondly, to all the Federal Ministry of Health to ensure proper hygienic and medical assistance to these people in different ID camps to avoid outbreak of disease. Thirdly, to mandate the Committee on NEMA and Health Services to ensure compliance and report back to House within 3 weeks for further legislative action. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Second, the Honorable Chidoka.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Obina Chidoka, representing Idemili North, Idemili South Federal Constituency of Anambra State. I rise this afternoon to second the motion as moved by my colleague, Honorable Tony Nwoye. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
It's a motion bordering on disaster. In line with our rules, I'll put the question. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Next is from Honorable Aliu Sani Madaki.
Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, my name is Aliu Sani Madaki, and I represent the people of the Ala Federal Constituency of Kano State. Mr. Speaker, I want to come under Order 8, Rule 4, matters of urgent public importance. And the matter I want to bring before the attention of the Honorable House has to do with the action or inaction of men and officers of the Nigerian Customs Service as regards to the growth and development of trade and commerce in Kano. I'm therefore appealing that we suspend all the relevant rules so that I may take it now. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Seconder, Honorable Dambara.
Abonta, please. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, my honorable colleagues. I remain Honorable Dambram Abubakar Nuhu, representing Kano Municipal, the only gentleman from the municipality in the whole of the Green Chambers, and I'm from Kano State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion as ably moved by my good brother, Honorable Madaki. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable Madaki, you can now move the motion since the rules have been suspended.
Mr. Speaker, illegal seizure of rice and the brazen abuse of law by the men and officers of the Nigerian Customs Service at Kano Market. The House note that Kano being the central nerve of commercial activities in the north has a good number of markets.
Please.
Aware that numerous commercial activities are being undertaken in the market ranging from wholesale to resale sales. Worried that recently men and officers of the Nigerian Customs Service entered Operua and Singa Market in Kano and illegally carted away large quantities of rice from the market. Also aware that Operua Market is mostly composed of small-scale traders who mostly engage in retail trading. Again, aware that custom carted away thousands bags of rice from Operua Market and in the open shared it among themselves and other security operatives in the operation. Further aware that custom again invaded the Singa Market in the dead of the night and carted away with over 10 trailers loaded with rice and other essential food commodities. Disturbed that the operation of men and officers of the Customs Service has the effect of affecting the growth of business in Kano and by implication, Nigeria's economy. Desirous of restoring the affected market men and women back to their status before the illegal invasion and cutting away of the rice loaded in trailers. Resolved to condemn the action of the men and officers of the Nigerian Customs Service of invading and cutting away lawful goods, i.e. rice of law-abiding traders of Operua and Singa Market. Direct the authority of the Customs Service to restore the carted away rice to their lawful owners without delay. Constitute an ad hoc committee to investigate the circumstances leading to the invasion and reasons behind cutting away of goods of that magnitude of rice from Operua and Singa Market in Kano. I so submit.
Second, Honorable Bashir.
Thank you once again, Mr. Speaker. I'm from Kano State. My name is Babale Bashir. I rise to second the motion as moved by Honorable Madaki. I so second.
Honorable Madaki, you can now argue the motion. Lead the debate, sorry, not argue motion.
Mr. Speaker, I believe this is a straightforward motion and an issue that I have brought before this House before. I recall the last time I brought an issue that has to do with custom was where the traders and people in Kano alleged that when they go to Aba Market to buy shoes on their way to Kano, the custom will stop them and seize this good. Part of the complaint I received even today before I entered the chamber is that the custom are still stopping these traders that goes to Aba Market to buy shoes to take them to Kano. They will stop them. They don't know how to do. And we know the economic situation we are all facing. Most of these traders, I spoke to one trader yesterday whose total capital is 400,000 naira. That's his whole total capital. Inside Operua Market, they went in the dead of the night, broke the store, took away everything. His small money that the boot he sold for that day, when he came, even the money was gone. We wouldn't know who took the money because they went in the dead of the night. I am not saying, I want to be heard very well. I'm not saying that customs should not do their job. I'm not saying that customs should not even go to store and do search and carry away items that are illegal. But what I'm saying, there is a right way of doing things and there is the wrong way of doing things. When you go in the dead of the night, 2 a.m., break these stores, went with trailers like it happened in Singa Market, load this rice inside trailers, and you just took them away. And to our surprise, the next day, they brought back some of the goods they took, because in the process, they realized they took things that are not banned. They are not banned products. So some big men in Kano have to now call them and said, you went to so-so places. You took this and this and this. Why? I'm sure if they went and do this, I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, if they went and did this operation in the day, there wouldn't have been this problem. These traders are now alleging that in all the stores they went, their money is missing. Who took the money? We don't know. Is it the custom officers, or is it after they have left, miscreants saw an opportunity and use it to go and steal their money? What we are doing is to kill the growth of trade and industry in the whole of Nigeria. Because when you stifle trade in Kano, the whole of northern Nigeria, in one way or the other, will be affected. And when you have problem of commerce and trading in northern Nigeria, you are having problem in the whole of the country. I believe the custom officers should be called to order. I believe as a house, we must find a way of using the law right. What I mean by using the law right is they have right to seize item, but the question is, how do they do the seizure? So I'm appealing to my honorable colleague to support this motion so that we don't move into a looming crisis. Because as it is today in Nigeria, everybody is crying. Everybody is hungry. When you are hungry, you are angry. I don't want the people of Kano, all of us, to be angry. I'm therefore appealing that we do what is right in the interest of all. Thank you very much.
Who is speaking against? Okay, Honorable Goro wants to speak against, and then we'll see how you go to Kano.
I am from Kano State, Mr. Speaker. Comrade Amin Suleiman is my name. I represent Page Federal Constituency. If I return by the grace of God, I don't want to stay near this PDP man. It's disturbing me at the back. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think it is important as a house that we assume full responsibility and try to see how we can whip the custom to discharge their responsibilities and tasks. Doing this with human pace. For us in Kano, commerce is the most important occupation that an average Kano man is proud of. And all of us are bearing witness to the fact that custom operate in excesses. Like the mover of the motion about, Mr. Speaker, several low-income businesses and business operatives have been forced to close and reduced to near beggars. And I think this is not the first motion that was debated on the floor of this House. I do not know whether the Committee on Custom, as directed by the House, have interfaces with the custom with a view to ensuring that legitimate businessmen and women are not harassed in our country. It is important, Mr. Speaker, that we ask the chair of custom to address us whether the resolution in the past as it affects custom on these same issues have been addressed by his committee. If it is not, I think I will humbly request that the Speaker do direct to a very strong voice that this issue must be critically looked at. A very good motion, even though coming from the minority party, but I'm inclined to believe that it's a motion worth supporting because it's a progressive motion akin to the one that is being moved by APC. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You know, this motion is investigative. So I thought he was speaking against the motion, and I wanted to test if he has liver. Okay, Honorable Nasir Ali Ahmed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I remain Honorable Nasir Ali Ahmed, representing Nasra Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, my only problem with this issue is I believe the job of the Nigerian customs is mainly at the border, at the point of entry. I see no reason, Mr. Speaker, why every time when, for example, now, let's take Kano, for example, Mr. Speaker. Kano is the center of commerce in the country. If people are selling their stuff within their shops, the job of the custom officer is more at the point of entry. And I believe they should strengthen their job there. You cannot come to somebody's house or somebody's shop and start seizing goods. Mr. Speaker, even though the mover of the motion mentioned people with a capital of 400,000, in Kano there are people that go with just a capital of 10,000 naira to buy one sack of rice and break it down into bowls and sell. So, Mr. Speaker, I strongly support this motion. I believe that people should not be harassed doing their legitimate businesses in their shops. The customs should learn to do their jobs at the point of entry. They should stop any smuggling at that point of entry. You cannot be in your house or in your shop and somebody will just come and start removing things and say they are smuggled goods. We totally condemn the smuggling of all kinds of goods into Nigeria. But let the custom officers do their jobs at the point of entry, and they should not be going to shops to harass innocent people carrying out their daily businesses. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
But for the records, you should acquaint yourself with the provision of the SEMA, Customs and Excise Management Act. It actually gives them power to trace wherever contrabands are. But from the presentation of Aliu Madaki, the fact that they returned some goods later, and the fact that some of the goods they took away were even shared in the open, according to what he has said. So it means that there are very, very serious issues that must be dealt with. Honorable Salemi, because I remember you've had cause to complain about the customs, so I recognize you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. My colleagues, I'm Dr. Abdullahi Balarabi Salami, member representing Gwadabawa Ilela Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this motion and also to draw the attention of the Honorable Speaker and my colleagues that things like this, motions, especially on custom, the way they are doing things, we have been complaining. A lot of motions have been passed in this House on custom. If this House can remember, I am one of those that presented motion for the killings of the citizens in my constituency. And committee has been set. They were given 2 weeks. Assignment should also be assigned to investigate how does these items come to this market. Mr. Speaker, there was a motion here calling on the federal government to suspend the importation of rice. Let people be allowed to be paid due duty for the rice that they are importing. But the federal government or the federal government is yet to agree or allow people to import rice. But still that rice is being imported. Look at the number of trailers that were seized in this only one market. What of the other markets? All our markets are full of imported rice. But where is the revenue? The revenue go to individuals instead of the revenue to go to the federal government. So we should also investigate why should customs be allowing this illegal things are being brought into our country on illegal ways through connivance with the custom. The difference is only that the revenue supposed to be charged by the federal government instead of the revenue to go to the federal government, but it goes to the individual, to some of the corrupt customs. Because all these rights that are being imported, all other items that are being banned to be imported into the country are being brought through connivance with the custom. By when you live in the border, 3 o'clock in the night, 2 o'clock in the night, you see a number of trailers coming, escorted by Nigerian custom. Why should they allow these things to be brought into the market? The poor man buy it to sell, to earn 1 naira, 3 naira, and they come and meet him in the market. After all, they are done collecting money, bringing this thing into our market. We should also investigate that. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
I think time. And we have to move on. It's unfortunate because of time. But I think it's an investigative motion, so we cannot condemn before we investigate. So if we can amend prayer 1 to remove the word condemn until the investigations are done before we can condemn.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to remove the word condemn in prayer 1 to investigate.
So
who can amend? You cannot amend your motion because you've already moved it. So we'll call another member who wants to amend it, just to take away the word condemn. Honorable Bashir. Babale.
Well, I think, Mr. Speaker, the amendment is we should remove the word condemn from the prayers because I think it's an investigatory motion. It is after the investigation, if the need of condemning arises, the House can condemn. But for now, we are yet to maybe know the real position of the situation. So I move that the prayer should be, the word condemn should be deleted from the prayers. I so move.
Second, Honorable Ishaka.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Ibrahim Ayokunle Ishaka, before Ewekuru Federal Constituency of the State. I rise, Mr. Speaker, to second the amendment as ably moved by Honorable. I so second, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, sir.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor of the motion as amended say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Next is from Honorable Gwani Bukar.
Mr. Speaker, sir, Right Honorable Speaker Yakubu Dogara. My name is Honorable Gwani Bukar Lawan, member representing Bursari, Gaidam Yunusari. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm from Yobe State. My point of order in regard to disappearance of retired Major General Idris Alkali. So it has been taken over by Honorable Pajok and also the amendment made by Honorable Nasiru. So I now withdraw the motion. It has been taken care.
So he stepped down by leave of the House. Last but not the least, from Honorable Betty.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Betty Apiaki. I represent Abuja Odualahoda East Federal Constituency. I'm from Rivers State. Mr. Speaker, I come under Order 824 to discuss a matter of urgent public importance on the issue of urgent need to provide relief material to flooded communities in Rivers State and Abuja Odua local government area in particular, and to waive the relevant rules of the House. So I can take the motion. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Seconder, Honorable Gaza.
Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Gaza Jonathan Befi, and I represent the people of Karu, Kefi, Kokona Federal Constituency. I rise to second the first leg of the motion that this matter be treated as urgent. Thank you, I so move.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Rules have already been suspended. Honorable Betty, you can now move your motion.
Coastal communities in the country has left many citizens displaced and devastated. Farmlands, houses, properties have been destroyed and lives lost as the flooding of these communities has continued unabated. Mr. Speaker, the House is aware that in Rivers State, several local governments have been submerged, including my local government, Abuja Odua local government, where the following communities have been submerged: Adao, Adada, Kolomade, Amuruto, Emesu, Aruko, Ogbema, O'Brien, Okobo, Aminigboko, and Oweriweri. Mr. Speaker, the displaced families in these communities have been left homeless and lives have been lost. The House is therefore worried that the displaced citizens of this community now face serious dangers of an epidemic outbreak, which can lead to more loss of life. The House resolved to urge the National Emergency Management Agency to urgently mobilize to the locations affected by flood disaster with a view of extending humanitarian and medical assistance to the affected families. The House also resolved to urge the PHED to work with the flooded communities to prevent electrocution. The House resolved to mandate the House Committee on National Emergency Management to ensure compliance and report back to the House in 4 weeks. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Seconder, Honorable Inkiruka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I am Kiru Kaonye George. I represent the good people of Isukwatu Munochi Federal Constituency. I am from Abia State. I rise to second the motion as ably moved by my sister and my neighbor and colleague, Honorable Betty Abiafi. I so second.
This is a motion relating to disaster, and I'll put the question. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable members, the first business of the day is presentation of 3 bills. I now invite the clerk to read the short titles.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, Nigeria Police Academy Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2018, first reading. National Blood Service Commission Establishment Bill 2018, first reading.
Honorable colleagues, the second business of the day's presentation of report of Committee on Federal Capital Territory on need to conduct a comprehensive audit of all revenue accruable to the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, through the Abuja Investment Company Limited, its subsidiaries or affiliates, and the alleged abuse of due process in the last 10 years, 2007 to 2017. Standing in the name of Honorable Sajos O. Ogun. Honorable members will recall that the matter was referred to the committee on Wednesday, 14 March 2018. Honorable Sajos is invited to present the report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Sergius Ose Ogun. I represent Eastern Southeast, Eastern Northeast, and I'm from Edo State. I rise to move that the House do receive the report of the Committee on Federal Capital Territory on need to conduct a comprehensive audit of all revenue accruable to the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, through the Abuja Investment Company Limited, its subsidiaries or affiliates, and the alleged abuse of due process in the last 10 years, that's 2007 to 2017. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Seconder, Honorable Bardenga, no, that's not your seat. Honorable Nana.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Raphael Nana Ibokwe, and I represent the good people of Ayazo, isn't it in the same federal constituency of Imo State. I rise to second the motion as moved by Honorable Sergius. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. First order of the day, honorable colleagues, is consolidation of 2 bills. Honorable members may wish to note that the bills are on the same subject matter. I now invite the Chairman Committee on Rules and Business to move the bills be now consolidated.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Okay, Jeb. I represent the good people of Buruku. My dear colleagues, I'm from Benue State. I rise to move that a bill for an act to amend the National Broadcasting Commission Act, Cap N11, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to strengthen the Commission and make it more effective for the Commission to regulate broadcasting in Nigeria and for related matters. And a bill for an act to amend the 3rd schedule of the National Broadcasting Commission Establishment Act, Cap N11, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to ensure that all television and cable services run education programs in line with school syllabi and curricula and for related matters, be consolidated as one bill. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I so move.
Any seconder? Honorable Fred Abedi.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues. Agbedi Echemina Frederick is my name. I represent Agbama Kirimo Federal Constituency. I am from Bayelsa State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I rise to second the motion as ably moved. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it.
For a bill for an act to provide for the smooth and orderly transfer of power from one government to another, and for related matters, House Bills
102 and 109 be read the third time. I so move.
Any seconder? Deputy Rules and Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Dr. Bodea Yorinde. I represent Owo.
Order.
I'm from Ondo State.
Order.
I
Honourable
rise
members.
to second the motion, ably moved by the Leader of the House. I so second.
Honorable colleagues, the question is that the bill be now read the third time. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Clerk is invited to read the long title of the bill.
Order.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to provide for the smooth and orderly transfer of power from one government to another and for related matters. Third reading.
Bill read the third time and passed. The third order of the day is the third reading of a bill for an act to amend the Federal Polytechnics Act, Chapter F, 17 Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to review the retirement age of staff of federal polytechnics, harmonize the tenure of office of the rector and other principal officers of federal polytechnics in Nigeria, and for related matters. Honorable members will recall that the House adopted the report of Committee of the Whole on Tuesday, 24th July 2018. I therefore call on the Leader of the House to move that the bill be now read the third time.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, I remain Mohammed Tahir Munguno. I represent Martin Munguno, the Federal Constituency of Borno State. I hereby move for a bill for an act to amend the Federal Polytechnics Act, Cap F-17 Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to review the retirement age of staff of federal polytechnics, harmonize the tenure of office of the rector and other principal officers of federal polytechnics in Nigeria, and for related matters, House Bill 1488 be read the third time. I so move.
Acting Whip.
Right, Honorable Speaker, honorable members. My name is Honorable Goni Bukar Lawan, member representing Bursari, Gaidam Minusari. I'm from Yobe State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion heavily moved by Honorable M.T. Moguno. I so move. I so second.
Honorable colleagues, the question is that the bill be now read the third time. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Clerk is invited to read the long title of the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to amend the Federal Polytechnics Act, Chapter F, 17 Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to review the retirement age of staff of the Federal Polytechnics, harmonize the tenure of the office of rector and other principal officers of the Federal Polytechnics in Nigeria and for related matters. Third reading.
Bill read the third time and passed. Fourth order of the day is the commencement of debate on the general principle of bill for an act to amend the Federal Road Safety Commission Act, Chapter F19, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to introduce stiffer penalties for traffic offenses and ensure the safe commercial transportation of glass bottled drinks on roads and highways, and for related matters, standing the names of Honorable Babatunde Gabriel Kolawole and Honorable Olufemi Fake. Honorable members will recall that the bills were consolidated on Thursday, 19 July 2018. I now invite Honorable Kolawole to move that the bill be now read a second time.